we all heard SAP HANA. Some of you might have heard from different discussions, different readings, different brochures, different sessions. So today we have an agenda. I'm going to actually take you through the journey of S4 HANA. Why S4 HANA is first of all released by SAP. What is simplifications? People talk about simplifications in S4 HANA, what exactly they are. And how do you actually onboard the journey of S4 HANA? And again, there are different ways you can take to get to S4 HANA. I'm going to give you like a quick overview on various transition scenarios. And at the end, I'm going to show you some of the advantages of using the S4 HANA. A couple of them are related to front end. Essentially, SAP FIORI is a front end. And again, I'm going to give you a glimpse of SAP FIORI. And also some of the deployment models that you would, you can technically use. At the last, I'm going to also touch upon a topic called embedded analytics. So some of you, I'm hoping, have some technical background, and you might have heard the word called analytics or embedded analytics. So I'm going to also give you like a quick overview on what exactly it means, how it can actually help your business. So what is S4 HANA? So we all heard that S4 HANA was released in 2015. And this is a new product offering on SAP stack. Again, SAP has started release 2 way back in the 70s, and then R3 came. And R3 was a very stable release for many, many, many years, right? And again, they changed the terminology to R3 to ERP or SAP ERP. Some of you know as ECC, Enterprise Core Component. That is a core function that has that it has all the basic functions that every organization needs that is delivered as part of the ECC. And then S4 HANA was launched in 2015. And in fact, as of a few months ago, there are 1,500 plus customers who are running their applications on S4 HANA platform. They're actually taking the power of HANA database and the simplified application of S4. So S4 is an application, HANA is a database. So both put together, it's called S4 HANA, also known as simplified applications for HANA. So what is actually new? So you can see here they have 3 cars. One is on the left-hand side, the old traditional, the strong, rugged, solid car called SAP ERP. Many organizations around the globe have their entire systems and applications running on SAP ERP as a backbone. People are happy, right? We all love our old cars, we like to drive. And then as things progressed, again, all the new technology concepts evolved. People wanted quicker responses. People wanted to know what's happening, what's going to come. So they want to have an ability to run their applications a lot faster. So then SAP has introduced their innovative product, which is a database called HANA, which has essentially an ability to take a lot of data, put it in memory, and then again, which actually makes the applications and the queries to run a lot faster. It's essentially my applications are exactly how they were before, but it is powered by HANA, so which is going to give you the lot of power. In addition to that, it's actually going to simplify your data models in the backend, and which also reduces your storage at the end. So that is also called a suite on HANA. Some of you might have migrated your applications just the database side. So again, when we started SAP ERP, all the people have different databases. Some people have transitioned by replacing the database to HANA database. So now you have S4 HANA, which is again a simplified application, which is optimized to run on HANA database, where you will have a new, better user interface, better analytical platform, and also better features, which are again powered by HANA database. So again, what exactly brings you? It brings you a simplification. So S4, you can see here how things have been transitioned. In 2011, the database came as HANA database. And then, first of all, what SAP has done is they have seen that people want to know real-time reporting. People want to actually look at and then sort of do any predictive analytics. So what the immediate the immediate solution for that was that their entire business warehouse, which was powered by S4HANA, sorry, powered by SAP HANA database, that was launched in 2012. And then again, people also wanted to know, hey, you know, business warehouse on HANA is good, but I also want to have an ability to, again, you know, run my entire application on HANA database. I want to take the power of HANA database. So that was released in 2013, which is called Suite on HANA. And then SAP released a simplified user interface, simplified data models, simplified applications for financials. It's also known as Simple Finance, and that was released in 2014 as like 2 releases, 1 and 2. And both were running on HANA as a database, and it only simplified the user interface, and it actually simplified the data structures for financials. And then S4HANA was released, where they've taken the same approach of simplified finance and extended it to many other areas like procurement, retail, supply chain. So that's where S4HANA came as an entire stack, and SAP continued to innovate on the SAP S4HANA platform. So there are 4 major things. A simplified data model, which means that my entire database, data structures, database tables are simplified. You don't have to really go through 10 different tables to get the information. You have a couple of tables which stores a lot of dimensions for financial reporting. Similarly, a lot of dimensions for procurement reporting, a lot of dimensions for inventory reporting. The idea is, you know, I don't really have to go and then build a huge data warehouse and huge complex data joins. So my database itself is very rationalized. So that is the whole idea of simplified data model. And then you also have the user experience and, you know, advanced processing, and also it gives you a choice of deployment, how you want to deploy your applications on S4HANA. And again, I see people are some raising hands in between. I would actually go through and then I'll give you a time at the end, okay? So if you want to really, you know, start your journey and go on to S4HANA, there are actually 3 different options. One is you have some other ERP, not SAP, and you can directly onboard your journey to S4HANA. That's like new implementation altogether. Or some customers think, hey, my application is actually very old, you know, it really does not meet my needs. Let me take a new look and then start over. Those customers can also, you know, typically choose the approach called new implementation. Also known as greenfield, because some of you might have heard the word called greenfield versus brownfield. The greenfield is a new implementation. And then the second approach is a system conversion. So this is actually where most of the people are adapting nowadays. The reason is you don't want to lose the data. I really want to retain the entire history. I want my processes are, again, you know, it doesn't change much. I'm happy with the way things are working in my current application, but I really want to look at, and, you know, look at S4HANA. I want to embark upon the S4HANA journey and take all the additional features and functions provided by S4HANA. Those are the cases where people use system conversion as an approach. And then the third case is a landscape transformation. This actually suits for the people who have multiple SAP landscapes. For example, as part of your organization growth, there might be cases where people have acquired different organizations, which comes with its own SAP implementations, SAP landscapes. And this is a case where you could technically consolidate all of them and then go to one unified S4HANA landscape. So that is where you have landscape transformation comes into picture. Not only that, there are cases where people want to, you know, again, anyway, I'm actually doing, I'm migrating from my current application to S4HANA. Is there any way I can transpose by numbers? I can transpose my data structures. So there are cases where people use system conversion in combination with landscape transformation also. So that's also possible to do. And then as S4HANA, you have 2 choices of deployment. People who doesn't want to invest in their own hardware, and then they just want to actually, hey, you know, let me use the best processes, let me use the best practices which are given by SAP. They would automatically, you know, that in those cases, S4 Cloud is a better choice, because these S4 Cloud is actually designed based on their, you know, based on the industry best practices. Though it also allows you to enhance certain applications, but obviously, you know, the enhancements are a little bit limited. Your hands are a bit tied, unlike your on-prem. On-prem S4 will give you all all the flexibility that you currently have in your ECC. You can go ahead and then do any enhancements, obviously, under the framework of SAP enhancements. You can still go ahead and then extend your applications the way you want. That's all part of the on-prem. So there are certain considerations, what options you should do, how you can go there. So simple example, you have currently a system which is pretty complex. You have a lot of processes running, you have a lot of custom development, and you have a lot of industry extensions. And in these cases, and again, you have a hardware which is probably already paid off. And again, you can afford a new hardware which could support S/4HANA. In those cases, on-prem would be a better bet. But a lot of greenfield implementation, people are looking at S/4 Cloud as a starting point, which actually requires you to spend less, obviously less investment initially, and then you can see the returns rather quickly. So again, this is again summarizing the same picture. Suppose on the left-hand side tells you where you are. You might be running SAP on any database, or your SAP ERP could be running on S/4HANA. And to go to cloud, it's like a brand new implementation. There is no way you can take your current existing SAP ECC and directly jump to cloud. It's essentially you are starting over. You are setting up your enterprise, starting from entire company code, starting from your organization structure. Everything is new in S/4 cloud approach. Though it actually gives you tools which allows you to extract the data from your on-prem SAP ERP, and then you could migrate it to S/4 cloud. So the approach is you configure the S/4 cloud as a brand new implementation. You take the data from existing SAP ERP and you migrate it to S/4HANA cloud. But if you choose S/4HANA on-prem, you can technically use all the three options, which is system conversion, as we talked about in the past, a few minutes ago, and also new implementation. The new implementation is where if you decide that my current architecture, current system is really not well defined, you could still decide not to continue and just to start a new project altogether on-prem. So it does support all three variations here. Obviously, when you really want to do that, you'll have a lot of questions. What is the best option for me as a customer? Because I have my systems running since many, many years. I have processes running. I have data in my systems. So what is the best option for me? Should I really go with a greenfield implementation or a conversion approach? By the way, it's also called brownfield. I know some people use the word loosely called brownfield, which is actually means you're not starting over. You are leveraging all your data structure. You are leveraging your data. You are leveraging your custom code, but then migrating it to S4. So these are the various factors that could influence your price of transition scenario. One is your system requirements. Do you have enough resources? As a resources example, can you go and then buy your hardware, number one. Second thing, how is your actual currently existing system is structured? Is there a lot of customization done? Is there a lot of core code modifications done? Is there a lot of enhancements done in your system? So if you decide that my current system really is not well defined, then some people take a new implementation altogether. Or if so that is where people can make a decision, right? Whether you want to do system implementation versus system conversion. Business processes. Suppose if you have a company, as a company, you follow like at least 80% best practices, which are given by SAP. And you might have done some custom enhancements, or you might have done some custom interfaces, which are okay. So as long as you're not really changing the way the transaction flow works, the processes run, then you can technically do a system conversion as an option because you are 80% to 90% fit as SAP standard. So that's the best option for you as a customer. But then if you completely want to redesign your processes, my current process really is not well defined. Whatever happened in the past, for example, I'll give you a simple classic example. I've seen customers who really don't know how the cost center should be set up. Their completely org structure is set up incorrectly. Their profit centers are structured incorrectly. Their plan structure is incorrect. So when you have things like org structure itself is not well defined, then there is no easy way to fix it other than re-implementation, then in those cases, your only option is start over as a new implementation. And then is a custom code. So custom code, again, you might have read a lot of places that custom code is one major factor, but in my experience, custom code is a custom code. And as a S/4HANA, it does give you a guideline how custom code should be adjusted, but that's not really a decision factor for new versus system conversion. So I would say in most of the cases, custom code is not really a decision-making factor. I would say every custom code can be mitigated as long as you know exactly what you're trying to do, and as long as you follow the SAP practices for putting the custom code, then you can go to system conversion approach. The only way you'll have a challenge is, for example, if you have a SAP 4.7 system, which doesn't have any enhancement framework. People used to go take the access keys and change SAP code left and right. In those cases, you'll have a challenge. But if you are on SAP at least 6 or above, and you're following all the enhancement framework, decent best practices of how do you design and develop custom code, you should be able to transition your code into S4 rather smoothly. And then the time to value. So this is another factor where somebody says, I really can't take a longer journey to go live. New implementation means, as you all know, it starts from discovery, blueprinting, and then again, start with architecture, redesign all the processes. So it actually has a longer time to go live. System conversion, you're not changing your processes to that much, so that time would be rather quickly. So typically, if you see the industry, and you might ask, hey, generally, how does a customer do? So you can see here, it has some statistics in terms of which customers, how they're actually transitioning their systems. So this just gives you a simple a scenario, how much they're doing it. So you can see here, a transition scenarios, like 63.4% people are really using conversion as a choice. Now, this is a case where new implementation is 70% because my SAP really doesn't fit for me. These are like brand new customers onboarded. So most of the case here. In small and medium large companies, again, it's less than 100% users. This is the size. So if you see SAP, this is where most of you as a customers will fit in. And in these cases, typically how long it takes to go and do the system conversion, I would say, in my experience, and where we have done a couple of projects, generally our timeline is between 6 to 12 months. 6 months is a bit aggressive, if you have sort of a larger user base, larger processes. But if you have like core functions like your financials, procurement processes, sales, some logistics, and and maybe some maintenance functions, which are all part of the core functionality, you are looking at 6 to 12 months time frame. But if you have a lot of industry extensions, maybe you have SAP new product portfolio such as CRM, SRM, maybe EWM. In those cases, your duration might increase a little bit because there are certain things to deal with, which is integrations, where you might fall under 12 to 24 months time frame. Very rarely you will see that the project of this size will go beyond 2 years. Okay. So how do you generally go about this conversion? What steps you have? Most of you, if you guys have seen how SAP is implemented traditionally, people have familiarized with the methodology, correct? Methodology has different steps. Normally, it says prepare phase, where you're really actually preparing for your migration, preparing for your journey of conversion. What exactly it entails? You really have to understand your system, where you are, and then also assess where you want to go. So when you say assess where you want to go, as I said, SAP has actually like an 11-month release cycle for S4. People who have, some of you might have heard S4 releases such as 15.11. 15.11 is the first release SAP has come out in 2015 November, and then it's 11-month release. So the next release came in 2016 October. And then 2017 September is the last S4 release. And the next release is planned for 2018, obviously, in the second quarter. So it should come like any time now. So like typically it comes in, like as I said, 11 months. So it should be September or August, okay, one of these 2 months. So that's how SAP is releasing the S4 function. So as every release, SAP is improving the offering. SAP is bringing more application to simplified user interfaces, simplified data models. That is their goal, that once, maybe by 2020, all their add-ons, all their applications are moved to S4 platform. That is their goal. That's the reason if you see a lot of places, SAP actually says, hey, by 2020, you should really take a decision and move on to S4 platform, because that is by when all SAP applications will be simplified and they will be ready for that. Now, so in the commercial sequence, the first one is typically a prepare phase, where you first need to know the your release you're going to, and then your system requirements, where you have to analyze what is your current ECC stack, what all you have on that. Example, do you have just a ECC as a product, or you have a lot of add-ons installed? Some add-ons could be by SAP, some add-ons could be from third parties. So in this, that will be one of your decision factors. Is your system currently ready to go on to S4 journey? For example, you might have a third-party add-on for certain functionality, and if that third-party provider does not support S4, your hands are tied. You can't really go on to S4. So the first thing should be analyze your system. What all things you have on your SAP ECC or SAP ERP. So that's your first prerequisite. And then what's your current release? Are you on version 4.7? Are you on 6? If you are on 6, what's your EHP stack? EHP 7, EHP 8, EHP 4, EHP 5. And because the reason I'm saying is that will have a decision factor in terms of how you are going to S4 journey. So for example, if you are on 4.7, then you first have to come to ECC 6, and then you can go on to S4. Or if your systems are not even Unicode compatible. So again, some of you who are technical know what exactly Unicode means. So first you have to get it to Unicode, and then you can go on to S4 journey. So there are certain prerequisites where you first have to be in a stage where that can work as a starting point for S4. That's your system requirements. And then you have to set all your SAP solutions. When I say solutions, or the solution manager, ready for this S4 migration. The reason is the solution manager is the essential product or essential tool that will facilitate your journey to S4. So you really have to bring your solution manager to up to a certain level. So that is where the maintenance planner and everything. Again, this is if you have any technical folks, they know what exactly maintenance planner is. That will actually allow you to plan your entire upgrade smoothly. The solution manager is a very critical component in this function, and you really have to, first step would be bring it to 7.2 version, and then also it has a lot of accelerators. So you should leverage the accelerators which are offered by solution manager. So then you have the pre-checks. You can see here, the pre-checks will allow you to really assess your data structures, assess your existing functions, assess your, all your custom code objects. So that's very critical within the preparation phase. You need to know where you are and what impacts you might have in the journey of S/4HANA. So that is where the pre-checks are very critical. For example, if you have like fixed assets implemented, there are certain prerequisites. And if you are using HR, there are certain things which you really have to follow if you have a HR SCM implemented. And if you are using the example, if you have vendor numbers, supplier numbers or vendor numbers, same as my customer number, same as my employee number, then there are certain things which you really have to do as part of the pre-checks. So that pre-checks has a lot of value for your process. And then you have custom code migration. So SAP again has its tools which allows you to migrate your custom code smoothly. At least it will give you the impact. What is the impact on custom code with this S/4HANA migration? What all things you need to go and adjust it? That's all. At least SAP will give you an impact analysis. Hey, out of my 500 custom objects, I know for sure 200 of them I need to do some adjustment. And there are tools which are part of the SAP S4 which will give you that initial analysis itself. Then, so this is all part of my prepare phase. So once it is done, then you actually do realization. That is where you start your S4 upgrade itself. So again, SUM is a tool that is, again, people who are technical folks or the basis folks know what SUM tool is. It is a software update manager. So the SUM tool is, again, used as a tool that will take you to the S4 migration phase. So as part of it, you first have to migrate to database because you might be currently on Oracle or a SQL Server or a DB2 or any DB or SAP DB. Then the first you have to first you have to migrate to HANA database. Then you update your software to S4, the release 1709 or 1610 or whatever the release you want to go. And then once you update your software, then you do data conversion. So the data conversion is where, remember I said SAP has actually simplified certain data structures. So there are cases where you might have to convert your data. So an example I gave you before where my employee number is same as my customer number, same as my vendor number. So in this case, you really have to decide how I should renumber them, correct? Because you might have, because the reason is all of them are merged to business partner. When you're merging multiple different objects to one entity called a business partner, you really can't have the same number. So in these cases, you have to have a decision where, hey, okay, let's decide and maybe add a 1 as a prefix for my customer number. Things like that, you need to have decisions taken upfront. And then you can go on to the data conversions. In the data conversions, there are also certain steps wherein the financial data is also converted to something called a unified ledger or universal ledger. And also if you have assets, fixed assets, some are depreciated, some are maybe completely liquidated. So there are again certain processes where how the fixed assets are converted into S4. Similarly, if you are using any public sector extensions, such as funds management, grants management, there are again certain conversions planned for bringing your fund balances into a universal ledger. So these are all part of your data conversions. Once this is done, so then is your cross-application or app-specific. So this is the next step is now I'm doing my my migrating all my financial data, as we talked about financial data, any other like procurement data. So for example, if you're using material ledger in your system, there are again certain migration steps you need to do for migrating your material ledgers. This is all part of your cross-application or application-specific activities. So once this is all done, then is a major effort of your organization change management, because S4 is not just changing your data structures. It obviously is going to give you a better feel, better look, and better functionality, which will have an organization change impact. So that is where you need to have some some OCM plan, some training scheduled. And once that is all done, then you're going typical cut over, rest rehearsal, maybe once or twice, then you go live. So if you see the timeline, typically this is all perceived in the timeline of between 6 to 12 months. So this picture shows you 8-month plan. So based on your existing SAP system, this timeline might vary here and there, but this is like a holistic approximate timeline. So the reason I had this slide where is a preparedness, just to emphasize that the preparedness is very critical phase. Before you embark on S4, I would always advise my customer, you first prepare. Do not just jump on, hey, let's go to S4 HANA. First, evaluation of your system is very critical. So starting from your sizing of your S4 HANA, is your current infrastructure enough? And again, most of the cases, the reason I'm using most of the cases, most of the customers, and this is, you guys might be running on old hardware. That hardware might not even be compatible for S4 HANA, wherein you might have to go and procure a new hardware if it's non-prem. So in those cases, the entire life cycle of hardware procurement itself is a big activity. Because if you're a public company, then you have to float a tender, call for bids, then you pick a hardware. So sizing is a critical activity. So the sizing itself will take anywhere between like 1 month to 3 months to get a hardware. So that's one thing. Second thing is also evaluating your add-ons and business functions. As I stated before, add-ons do play a critical role, specifically if you have third-party softwares. Even some SAP add-ons also can give you, some sort of an issue for S4 compatibility. The reason is, I'll give you a simple example. Suppose if you're an IS retail or some industry function which is not natively, S4 is not really simplified that industry function yet. In those cases, I would rather ask customers to wait and identify in what S4 release that industry function is going to be optimized for S4 HANA. Then you wait, maybe then again, you might have to delay your project till that release is out. If you see the SAP roadmap, they do have different releases already for next 3 years planned. It will tell you what simplifications are actually planned in each release, and a lot of them are for industry functions such as IS utilities, IS retail, IS oil. So these are all planned as innovations again, in the next 3 years. Most of them are already, 1709 has a lot of industry solutions optimized already. So you first have to check. That's the add-ons and business functions. And then custom code, as I stated before, that's one of the area where you have to analyze. Simplification item, that is another thing. What exactly is simplification? We keep talking about unified, simplified database table, simplified application, simplified user interface. You can see here the UI looks fancy. So which means, so this entire application is now simplified. It has a better visualization. So there are a lot of simplifications are given by SAP. If you can, there's actually a simplification list. You just Google it, say simplification list for 1709. It'll give you a list of simplifications for different business functions. So you can look at it and see how it is simplified. There are transactions which are optimized for S/4HANA, like a new UI. There are Fiori apps, which are again a new user interface. This is all part of your planning. And as I said, again, this another slide talks about custom code specifically. So as I said, custom code is not really a roadblocker unless until you have not changed SAP standard code. Every custom code can be mitigated. You just need to pay attention, identify upfront what is the impact on the custom code with S/4HANA journey. So one thing I would always ask my customer is, do you know, out of all custom objects, how many are in use today? I'll give you simple statistics. We were actually implementing for one of the large public sector in the US, and we have noticed that they have so many transactions, so many Z reports, so much of custom code, but they don't even touch 20 to 30% of the code. It's like somebody developed it, somebody asked for it, they do have permission, but then they felt, hey, I have some other thing which is maybe serving better for me. So this becomes obsolete. This is also called obsolete code, dead code. So one thing is, again, this is where solution man will help you. If you can turn on the simply, the UPL, which actually tells you the usage procedure log. It goes and checks in the production, identifies what transactions have been being run in the past 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, and then you can evaluate and see, hey, I can retire this custom ZT codes, I can retire these custom enhancements. So that's another. This is opportunity for most of the customers to clean their clean their base, and then your S/4HANA related changes. So you might have your SQL statements in your programs, which might talk about cursors, which might have commands like order by, group bys. So those are again, you have to go and then adjust it, because HANA will give you a different way, where you can write your queries to execute a lot faster, by also to reduce your runtime, right? So the HANA brings that power for any SQL queries. So again, you might have to learn. There's actually a nice SAP book as well as the material that talks about custom code improvements for HANA database. So there are multiple commands which are simplified as the new syntax. And if you are actually an ABAP, NetWeaver 750 and above technical stack, that itself will give you a lot of new commands, new ABAP commands, which will actually simplify your code as well as improve the performance of the programs. And then, the third step is because SAP has changed database table structures, you are forced to change your programs using new tables, correct? So these are the three main things that you have to do. And as I said, there are tools which actually fit within the custom code migration worklist will help you to identify the impact. And then you identify, hey, out of all my custom code, I need to go and adjust this 20 or 30 or maybe 100 programs. And then you work on them during implementation. And then again, during the realization phase, once you update the software, like any other software updates, such as EHPs or support packs, you will still have SPDD, SPAU, which you have to go and deal with it. And that's the function adaptation, we call it. And at the end, you tune your performance of some of the programs. So that's your performance tuning. So this is related to custom code typically. So when you do transition, now I'm sure some of you heard or have seen this. This is called a roadmap viewer. So SAP has a roadmap viewer which actually tells you when you want to do S4 conversion, how I should really plan this, correct? So this is actually structured in a way. You can see the left-hand side says planning my digital transformation. So what exactly you're planning here? So, and then horizontally you have individual sections. The bottom to top, technical. Platform design, infrastructure is all infrastructure planning and building infrastructure. So in the prepare phase, you plan it. In the build phase, you build it, deploy it, and test it. Same level migration. You plan your data migrations, you execute your data migrations. And then you have your integration testing, correct? So like we do our support packs or enhancement packs, testing is very critical. You want to test not just your SAP applications, also your interfaces, or integration between SAP to non-SAP applications, how things were working before, they should work even after you migrate to S4. Custom code, custom code management, and all your analytics. So analytics is also, the SAP S4 itself is a bigger, big change for analytics. It completely changes the way you perceive the reporting. So that's analytics design is a very critical function where one must pay attention to that. And then you're building the overall design, you're executing it. So I'm going to show you quickly for one of our customers where we have recently we have recently converted the systems from ECC EHP 7 to S4 HANA 1709. So you can see the timeline at the top. This is like a methodology of Activate. Again, I have next couple of slides to talk about methodology. SAP does give you methodology where how you should really onboard your S4 journey. You start from discovery, you prepare it, and then you explore, that's your design phase. And then you realize which is where you build it. And then you deploy, test and deploy. So that's typically, I said, this total comes to approximately, I would say 8 to 9 months. That's my time frame here. So this again, this is a continuation of the previous slide. This has more details about what exactly happens at every stage for every horizontal track, whether it's in technical infrastructure or data migration or testing or custom code. Each horizontal is a track here. So Activate methodology, as I said, this is given by SAP. So before we had as ASAP, correct? ASAP was the methodology given by SAP to implement any SAP solutions. Now SAP has an Activate. So Activate is actually improvisation on the ASAP, which allows you to do like a sprints, correct? Now some of you who are technical and maybe some project managers know what exactly a sprint means. You want to really perceive multiple go lives. So, for example, I really can't wait for 12 months or 1 year or 2 years. I want to really see some tangible benefits quickly. So, in those cases, the methodology allows you to do multiple go lives. So, for example, I've done the initial migration, but then when I'm trying to do the test and deploy, you could choose to turn on certain new user interfaces. Certain user interfaces still continue to be the old UI, and then you can have multiple sprints. That'll probably give you a quicker turnaround. It also allows you to introduce changes in a gradual way. It also gives you methodology. It also gives you a guided configuration. So especially if you're starting a greenfield, the guided configuration will allow you to configure the system rather quickly. Currently, if you have to do configuration, you need to have a strong configurator who knows SPRO, which is a transaction code, which will take you to the IMG and where you set up your structures. That's the old way. So in the new way, you have a guided configuration where it's like a step by step. You do first this, then this, then this, then this. At the same time, you add flavors to that. It also gives you best practices, which actually comes with the process flows, comes with template, comes with your checklist. All of them are delivered part of the Activate methodology. Now you need to have solution manager. If you have solution manager, this is part and parcel of the methodology. This is again a pictorial representation of the methodology. This slide talks about the new implementation. Typically in the discovery phase, where you really want to look at the product first before you go and onboard it. So you have like a trial version. So especially if you have S4 HANA Cloud, and you can ask SAP, hey, I'm really trying to evaluate the product. Can I get a trial version? They would happily give you a trial version for 30 days. And you can tell them, hey, I need an IS retail one, or I need an IS industry. My industry is a retail industry or my industry service industry, they'll give you appropriate S/4HANA Cloud tenant. Then you can at least play around. Similarly, if you have, if you can either take some hardware temporarily on Amazon Cloud or somewhere, they'll also give you a trial license for a 1-month validity, where you could at least even set up your S/4HANA on-prem trial. And then you can look at it. And then you can slowly prepare, hey, okay, now I know exactly how it looks. Now let me start my real design. That's where you really want to know how your architecture looks like. Then you define your scope, then you configure the system, then you migrate the data from your existing system to SAP, then you onboard your users and deploy. So this is typically the life cycle of SAP implementation, just like ASAP. But here it allows you to, as I said, sprints. You could go live with certain functions and features, and you come back and do the next, and the same thing continues. Similarly, the same thing for if you are now doing the S4 conversion, the same model applies here. So this again, you can look at the trial, same thing. You can go and you look at how S4 1709 looks like, what different features it has. And you can even dirty your hands by looking at and creating some data and see how it looks. That's all part of your trial. Then you do your onboarding journey. So now let me quickly talk about Fiori here. Some of you have heard and have seen. It's actually a new user interface. So it gives you a very, very, very innovative UI where one can see the information up front and take an action. And it is role-based. Role-based means if now my role is a accounts payable clerk, it groups all the relevant transactions under one group called accounts payable clerk. So as a AP clerk, I do all these 10 things on a day-to-day basis. So it allows you like a grouping of frequently used transactions. And then as the Fiori, this is, you can technically render this in any device, cell phone, laptop, tablets, anything is fine. And the design is very simple. So for example, if you log on to SAP Fiori frontend, you have pretty much 3 different areas. The about me, which means my last few transactions, my default settings, and then what I see, all the different tiles, and then some notification or alerts. Hey, somebody sent a document for approval, or somebody shared a document to you. The notifications. You have these 3 sections in Fiori predominantly. And some of the other feature is a global search. So today, if you want to search, you really have to open some report, or you have to open the transaction and press F4 and look for what you want to do. With Fiori, it has a global search. There's a lens on the top. You press the lens, you type a word. It gives you all the hit list, not just on the app. It also tells you, example, A, and it's showing me product A. And it's showing me some document that has a letter name A. And it's showing me, some other transaction that has letter A. So it gives you the hit list just based on the keyword. So which is actually a lot powerful and very useful. For example, imagine somebody is calling you and say, hey, can you tell me the status of this particular invoice? You can simply type the invoice number on the search. It will pull up the invoice right and show you immediately. You won't have to open the particular report and look for it. It's more, search is a lot faster. That's powered by S/4HANA. And typically you have 3 different UI styles. You have a transaction, which tells you about, for example, I want to create something or a display or a change. That's the transactions, correct? These are task-based. I'm trying to create a customer master. I'm changing customer master. I'm posting a financial document, transactional. Analytical, which gives you a better insight how things are running. Am I really behind, or am I really performing okay? So it gives you insight to your business. A fact sheet is like a snippet. For example, I want to look at my vendor. So the moment I open the vendor, I want to really say, hey, how is this vendor really performing? How much is my outstanding payable to him, and how much is really average lead time? Is it really supplying the goods on time or not? So you want to see as a summary. These are called fact sheet. It allows you to do like quick snippets about any object. Could be supplier, could be customer, could be even a product. You can build these snippets. There are certain things given by SAP by default, and you can also enhance it, or you can build your own as well. So embedded analytics is, as we talked about, this is actually part and parcel of S/4HANA. So you see all this tile that has some numbers. So which means this tile is actually giving you some information about some object, whether it's the purchase orders, whether it's about the payments, or about your cash on the hand, or about your outstanding payables, or about my profit, profitability percentage compared to last year. You can do a lot of trends. So anything that could be measured in a number can be depicted on a tile, either a percentage or a value or a quantity. So anything is a number, you can technically build a metric on it, and the metric could be shown on your tile. So by looking at your home screen, you know exactly how things are running, right? So that's the advantage of embedded analytics. And it also empowers users to act. So if you see something red, that immediately catches attention, where you can go and then immediately act on it, right? So that is how the power of embedded analytics. So what SAP has given is they have given a lot of virtual data models. So for example, you can see here, there are a lot of them. I mean, again, if you guys want to know more about it, you can go and check in SAP Health, or you can look at a trial version and then look at a lot of the data models which are available there. So these data models some are delivered in HANA, core data services, or HANA calculation views. There are certain data models provided on the ABAP core data services as well. So there are a lot of these services which are given by SAP. So now, once you have all this, these data models can be consumed in a lot of tools which are given by SAP. There's a tool called Query Browser. You can pretty much pick up any data model and just like an ad hoc query. Okay, now this model is about, model is about purchasing spend. You can open the model called purchasing spend. It has supplier number, has purchasing organization, purchasing group, product hierarchy. Then you can say, okay, I just want to now look at by product hierarchy, or I want to look at it by, by vendor geographically, or by maybe some other dimension. So you can actually group them and look at how they're looking at. So it gives you your own tools for end super users. You could just go and then build your own queries and your own user interfaces for that. So these are consumed in various tools. Okay? So this is another example of embedded analytics. So this is a typical screenshot taken from SAP system. Query browser. Here I took a model called accounts payable, and the model talks about invoicing processing time. So as an end user super user, you just access the particular model. It has all these fields on the left-hand side. You can keep dragging anything you want. You can, you can remove anything that you don't want to see. And there are some buttons on the top where you can technically change the user interface from a table approach to a graph, maybe a pie chart, maybe a bar graph. It can be done within few seconds or few minutes. And then this is ad hoc query tool given by SAP. So that's it from my side. And again, thank you for bearing me with the past 45 minutes. I think now it's a time for Q&A. So let me sort of unmute everybody. Sorry. So anybody who has questions, you can actually type under the Q&A, and I can try to answer them. So I do see a question from Anirudh here. Isn't system conversion or landscape transformation supported in S4 Cloud? Anirudh, to your answer, no, absolutely not. Because a cloud has completely different migration approach. You really have to migrate the data from the system to that. Landscape transformation will allow you to take your data, convert it, put into another on-prem. But to cloud, it's a migration. The only approach is migrating. You have to configure the product as you do a greenfield. You take the data from your system, and you have to convert into the new S4 cloud. So please type in your questions in Q&A box. I'm hoping all of you can see Q&A on the Zoom. There is a little button called question and answers. Try to post your questions there. Anyone has any other questions? Okay, so Anush, thank you for the question is, thanks for the insight. It would be great if you can summarize the key principles of data migration. So let me tell you the key principles of data migration. So Anshu Arora, sorry, it's not Anush. Anshu, when you actually, when you talk about the migration, I'm hoping you are referring to data migration in cloud. Let me answer that, and also data migration within S4. So data migration to cloud typically means you are starting a green field. You have to extract the data from your SAP ECC system and then use the migration cockpit, which is given by SAP as part of the S4 cloud, where it'll actually have all the different objects like general ledgers, GL accounts, maybe your bank accounts, and your customers, suppliers. Everything has an activity given in templates, and templates are given by SAP. So you have to take your data from existing SAP ECC, map it to the template, then you load it into cloud. Now, in the part of S4 conversion, when we talk about the data migration, that is predominantly for certain objects which are impacted by S4. As I stated before, right? One example is my customers, suppliers. These are all mapped to one entity called business partner. Now, in this example, you really have your right. You are migrating your data, even though within SAP, but the data structures are being migrated. You're not really migrating to some other system. It is in place migration, we call it. It's not really taking from one box to other box. So as a part of the S4 conversion, there's a step called data migration, where you're actually converting your data structures from old ledgers to new ledger. Another example is if you have like any public sector extensions or in some extensions, or you have multiple ledgers. People who have worked in the financials, they know what ledger means. It allows you to really have a different entries in every ledger. It will allow you to track different measures such as profitability. Maybe I want to look at dollar values by fund, whatever the way you want to look at it. So each ledger can have different beginning and end of the year, and they can post differently. Part of the universal ledger, you really have to migrate the data from your old ledgers into the new universal ledger. That is data migration. So the key principles are very simple. When you look at your simplifications, it does give you a list of all the impacted objects. As I said, customers, vendors, financials, which is all your postings, open items, assets, inventory documents. So there are items where when you look at your HANA simplification list, you will see them. And SAP has a conversion like a cockpit, which allows you to convert one by one. So that is your part of your migration. So the next question I see here is, what is the exact difference between landscape transformation and system conversion? So let me again explain you. So system conversion is in place conversion, which means when you're going live, your existing ECC system itself is upgraded to S4. So that is your conversion means. You are not really migrating or doing anything where you're taking the data from your box, your existing production, moving it to some other system. Conversion is in place. You will continue. So once you go live, your production, it might change the hardware box, but it will still be called same. If you're, again, so a lot of you know that three-letter word called system ID. If you see the production is called PRD, it will still be called PRD. So that is your system conversion. Landscape transformation means where you're really taking data from your couple of either one source or multiple source. Then you are taking all this data across different SAP existing production systems and moving them to one production system on S4HANA. As I said, as a part of your project today, I know there are customers who have multiple SAP production systems because I bought a company and that company also has its own SAP. And I have my own SAP box. So there are two production systems. Now, as part of S4, you can combine them and go to one. That's where you have landscape transformation. Or the other option where some people do is, I really don't have a need to bring all my historic data. Let me just get last 1 year data. Don't worry about historical data. And in the same project, I also want to completely change my numbering, right? So for example, my cost center numbers are maybe 4-digit. I want to change it to 7-digit or 8-digit. Or some other numbers are maybe 4 numbers. I want to change it. So when you have requirements like that, you go with the landscape transformation on the process. So then here, in this case, your production box would be completely brand new. You really have to set it up. There are some people take the configuration, collect the transports, and move it to the new box. But the data, you are not really doing the in-place conversion. This is a brand new system which is built from ground zero with no data. Then using the landscape transformation technique, you are taking the data from your existing production and then moving it to the new box. So like where you can do selective data replication. You're only selecting only customers, suppliers, some master data, maybe a year of transactions. It will allow you to select or dissect your data, copy it to the new production. So there's a tool which actually SAP gives you for doing that. It's called SLT, System Landscape Transformation Tool. Also SLO. There are 2 tools given by SAP which allows you to facilitate this process. The question from Manchan, can we get a copy of presentation? I'm sure we would share this deck after this meeting. Chaitanya, from SAP sales point of view, how to channel client to migrate to S4 HANA with respect to simple finance or SuccessFactors or simple logistics? Good question, Chaitanya. So this is where educating customer is very, very, very important, right? Because people doesn't want to change. Normally what we do is we show the innovations offered by S4 HANA, because even I'm selling this S4 to many customers. And it's obviously tough to sell anything to somebody new who doesn't understand technology, who, hey, my process is running fine, I'm happy with my ECC. So the advantage of S4 platform is it not just your core transactions, it has the engines like predictive analytics. It has a planning tools. It will help you to look at the data, all the different KPIs up front and take an actions. So the best way is you have to showcase it to your customer. Quick demo, maybe just maybe pick up a couple of things and make a demo to your customer, and that's the best way to have a dialogue with them. How much time required for system conversion in case of SMB? Next question from Rahim Nayak. The question is, how much time required for system conversion in case of SMB? What are major prerequisite steps needed to be considered while system conversion? So Rahim, as I stated here, the time frame for SMB is between 6 to 12 months. That is the minimum. So minimum we always suggest 6 months. The reason is, one is to prepare. Second thing is to train, the users. These are the 2 areas which you really have to focus and set the expectations. You don't want to undercut those 2. There are accelerators for actual conversion. There are accelerators for actually sort of mapping the roles and setting up the Fiori. There are a lot of that time could be cut down, but the training time, testing time, and your pre-planning. These are the 3 areas where you really cannot undercut your time. So 6 months to 12 months is the time frame. And Chaitanya, can you share your email after this talk? Yes, you all will receive an email from us with my information as well as Venkat's information, and feel free to shoot any email for any questions. And I see there are some people who are actually posting on a chat window. Let me look at the chat window. So this question is from Chandru. SAP contain more custom code than it would be implementation or a conversion. So as I said, custom code is not really a deciding factor for a system conversion. I said not deciding, it's not an influencing factor. That's a correct word, not deciding. The reason is that every custom code can be mitigated. It's a custom code at the end of the day. If it is where you have changed SAP standard code, that is where you really have to take a decision. But I really won't say that, oh, I have like 2,000 custom objects or maybe 10,000 custom objects. The only option for me is new implementation. No, that's not the answer. The number of custom object is not a deciding factor for your new implementation or conversion. Every custom object can be mitigated for S/4HANA. Okay. So example, the last project where we did, they had 850 custom objects. And it took us approximately 2 months to completely fix everything and move on. So it's not like a large effort. The other question I see here is a system conversion from on-premise to private cloud possible using some tool? Absolutely no. The sum tool is only for your on-prem. The private cloud, I beg pardon. Okay, so you're not talking S4 cloud here. When you say private cloud, I'm assuming that you are actually taking S4 on-prem, but building these servers in a cloud like Amazon cloud or Azure cloud. In that case, yes, some tool is the tool that you can definitely use it. What you would do in that case is you take the image of your current database, whether it's Oracle or a SQL server, and you stand up a server on your private cloud first, and then use some tool to upgrade them. So absolutely fine. If it's as long as it's S4 on-prem, whether you have a hardware physically with you, if it's a virtualized, dedicated, or it's another private cloud house managed by either Amazon or anybody else, you can absolutely use some tool. There's another question from Anshu Arora. Also, if you could share some of the learnings or pitfalls to avoid. So definitely learnings, we can, every project is a lessons learned, correct? I'm sure all of you have seen the plus minus. So there are definitely certain things which you really have to, you have to be careful. And that's why I said prepare phase is very critical. So that is when you really have to look at your system. So, I mean, if you need more information, the best way to tell you is if you can share or maybe give some information on, just take a system status, look at your add-ons and send it to us. We would be, happy to give you some quick information on it. But as I said, the learnings, what I've seen is people really does not pay attention to what Fiori offers. They don't prepare the end user community. That's always I've seen, where the adaptability is always critical. Now let me tell you, at least training people on Fiori is a lot faster than training people on your SAP GUI, because these transactions are much seamless. Information looks elegant, and the process runs a lot smoother. I guess that's it. I don't see any more questions from anybody. Can we get a copy of presentation? Yes, we would definitely share that with the people. And I think we are, coming close to the meeting, end of the meeting. Last chance for anybody to ask any questions. Okay, Pankaj Kumar sent a message again. The message says, how much time it takes to recognize the objects? So to recognize the object, if you have a solution manager, it has something called a custom code cycle management that you can set it up. Or there is actually a small program or like a zip file. If you go to SAP OSS, you could download, if you can just search on S4HANA prepared as for custom code, you would find a simple custom program which allows you to download your repository. Then you can also run. There are some programs which will scan them and give you like impact analysis. So in my experience of S4HANA implementations, the custom code analysis is normally between 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So thank you, everybody. And again, thank you all for taking your time. Another question from Arul. Do we have any document on data conversion with example? There are documents on SAP Marketplace. And again, when you say data conversion, are you looking at any specific area, such as financials or a procurement, or in general? Arul, can you type the answer in chat window? Logistics. Okay, so logistics, the only area impacted is inventory side, and it's that too only if you have material ledger activate. So, I mean, there's not at all much impact on your procurement side, logistics. Okay, you are good to go. Everybody's unmuted actually. I don't see anybody with the raised hands. No. Okay, so I'm going to give this mic to my colleague Venkat just for a closing thanks. And again, as I said, we will share the presentation to all the participants who are in the webinar today. And we'll also give your contacts. Feel free to ask any questions by email. And if you need any further informations, maybe you want to have a longer discussion or a discovery, we will definitely, can work with you, maybe spend like 15-20 minutes with you to look at your system also and give you some recommendations. That's also possible. And I'm going to give my, phone to my colleague Venkat.
Thank you, Madhu. It's very informative. As I mentioned, beyond migration. Thank you very much for your knowledge sharing. And I'm glad to inform you all that we will give you a free consultation on the any of your SAP S4 migration, either on the cloud or on-prem. We're glad to offer you a free consultation. Please avail. You give us your email, send us an email. Send us an email, and we will give you the solutions. Okay. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we will soon have one more session. Thank you all. One of them comes